Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we've got a really surprising story for you about an architect. And no, I'm not talking about someone who designs buildings, but someone who designed an entire nation's economy. We're going to uncover the true intellectual force behind one of India's most powerful institutions, and trust me, the answer's probably not who you think. All right, so let me just ask you this straight up. When you think of the Reserve Bank of India, who comes to mind as its mastermind? Well, get ready for a surprise. Let's peel back the layers of history and find out who really built it. So, to really get why a central bank was such a huge deal, we need to rewind the clock a bit. Let's take a look at what the financial system in India was like in the early 20th century. And, to put it mildly, it was a complete mess. You see, before the Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI, came along, there wasn't a single independent authority looking out for India's interests. Instead, you had the Imperial Bank of India, which was, you guessed it, controlled by the British. And that meant all the big decisions about money, currency, and credit, they were all designed to benefit the colonial rulers, not the Indian people. And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at the difference. On one side, you've got the reality back then. Banking was a free-for-all, the economy was constantly unstable, and the whole system was set up to help Great Britain. But on the other side, you see a totally different vision, a system with rules, stability, and one built to actually help the people of India. The big question was, who on earth could come up with the blueprint for that? And that brings us to our main character, the person who actually drew up that blueprint. Now, we all know him as a legendary lawmaker and a social reformer, but behind that familiar image was an absolute economic powerhouse. Yep, you're seeing that right, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. We celebrate him, and rightly so, as the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. But what so often gets overlooked is that he was also an economic genius, and his insights would literally shape India's entire financial future. And look, this wasn't just some hobby for him. He was a serious world-class economist, formally trained at the best institutions in the world. His time at Columbia University and the London School of Economics gave him this deep, expert-level understanding of exactly the kind of problems India was facing. So, armed with all this incredible knowledge, Dr. Ambedkar didn't just criticize the chaotic system. He basically wrote the instruction manual on how to fix it. And that solution came in the form of a book that would change everything. And this right here is the key. In 1923, he published his book, The Problem of the Rupee. This wasn't just some dry academic paper, oh no. It was a complete, top-to-bottom analysis and a practical step-by-step roadmap for creating a stable financial system for India. You know, this quote really nails the core of his entire argument. He completely flipped the script. The whole point of India's monetary system, he said, shouldn't be to prop up British trade, it should be to create stability and prosperity for India itself. I mean, for the time, that was an absolutely revolutionary idea. And his plan wasn't some vague dream. He broke it down into these super clear, actionable steps. First, he said, you've got to create a totally separate institution just for managing money. Second, you need a stable currency to keep prices and inflation in check. Third, you have to regulate the banks so they can't exploit people. And fourth, the whole point of your policy should be the economic well-being of the Indian people. It was the complete package. Okay, so having a brilliant idea is one thing, but actually getting the colonial government to listen and implement it, that's a whole different ballgame. The next step was absolutely crucial, turning his theory into actual policy. So picture this, it's 1926. The British create this commission, the Hilton Young Commission, to figure out what to do with India's financial mess. And who walks in to present his ideas? Dr. Ambedkar himself, armed with all the powerful arguments he'd already laid out in his book. And this timeline, I mean, it just connects all the dots perfectly. You can draw a straight line. His book comes out in 23. He presents those ideas to the commission in 26. The commission's final report, which was heavily influenced by his work, leads directly to the RBI Act in 34. And then, boom, the bank is created a year later. It's crystal clear. All right, this is it. This is the moment where all the pieces, the research, the arguments, the advocacy all finally come together. Dr. Ambedkar's blueprint was about to become a reality. And then, the big day, April 1st, 1935. It actually happened. The Reserve Bank of India was officially established. This was the birth of India's modern central banking system. And please, don't miss this part, because this is the critical link. The foundational law that created the RBI, that 1934 Act, it wasn't just written out of thin air. It directly incorporated the core principles that Dr. Ambedkar had been fighting for over a decade, right from the pages of his book. So that vision he had for a self-sufficient, independent monetary system run by Indians, for Indians, it became real. It's a legacy that continues to shape the Indian economy to this very day, and it really solidifies his place as one of the nation's most important and maybe most unsung economic thinkers. It's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it, right? This same person who gave India its political blueprint, the Constitution, also gave it its economic blueprint. It just makes you wonder, what other incredible architects of our modern world are hiding right there in plain sight, just waiting for us to rediscover their stories?